Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mystic Quest Randomizer SGL Qualifiers. Tonight we are doing our asynchronous vodcast. That means all four of these races that you're seeing on screen right now have been pre-recorded. The asynchronous races qualifiers took place 2 days ago. So these are the VODs that were submitted as part of those asynchronous qualifiers. And tonight I'm joined in the booth by one of our tournament participants, Sir Linkalot. Linkalot, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. A little bummed I'm not participating this year, but family stuff is preventing that. And honestly, spectating every now and again has been nice, to say the least. So tonight we are spotlighting Possumonphe, Artea, Hataks, and Wildham. Wildham being our dev of the randomizer. And I gotta say, there was some interesting chatter about this async after everything was said and done. Having participated in it yourself, what can you, without spoiling too much for our chat, what can you lean into to look forward to for the audience?
I mean, without spoiling too much, there's some apparently some pretty nasty encounters that may or may not be in the way of some things that you definitely have to do. Some items might have not been in great places compared to where you would really like to see them. There was a lot on this seed. The times won't go over the times because we don't want to kind of spoil when you might start seeing finish and stuff like that. But there was quite a range in the times from the very first to the very finish. So kind of see what happens here.
Yeah, I think looking at it from the post that we had in the Discord, it's about a 30-minute variance. And I've mentioned this in some of our other qualifiers before, but I'm really actually happy to see the experience spread widening as we go through these tournaments. There's a lot of newcomers this year, a lot of folks we didn't see last year and the year before, freshly joined faces to the Mystic Quest community, and you kind of see through the spread some newer folks and some seasoned folks, and the things that people have been learning just during the qualifiers is getting me really excited for the tournament proper.
Yeah, I mean, we got one more qualifier left, and then we'll see who gets to go to brackets and kind of duke it out for the ultimate prize and the championship. But we'll see what happens.
Indeed. Sorry, I'm looking at something over here. So for our chat tonight, we do have our quests available for our partners, and our runners are starting now. There might be a slight desync between the four streams here. Keep in mind that's just due to having to play back the four VODs at the same time. But right away we see claw available and we have axe available. No bomb and no sword. So that means no ice pyramid on the table yet. Realistically, your only options right now are to go through Lava Dome with that equipment set in terms of your major four dungeons. And looks like everybody started with Phoebe. The other partner available for this seed was Ruben. Phoebe's quests are defeat a Minotaur, visit the summit of Volcano, save 3 crystals, clear 17 battlefields. Ruben's collect 10 sky fragments, collect 22 refreshers, thaw Aquaria, and defeat 7 mini bosses. And while I was going through that, Artea already getting Sun Coin here, so not too much of a hard line in terms of opening up the world here.
Yeah, nothing major. I think the biggest difference looks like Artea may be going back for that. Pretty much every runner, I guess Possumonphe didn't either. Actually, most of the runners haven't, looks like. Or no, Possumonphe is the only one that has made it successfully to the top of Volcano, starting with Phoebe immediately and having that quest. Seeing Volcano right away, it's like, hey, I'm making my way up there for that extra levels immediately on my partner.
For sure, yeah. Partner leveling routing for this tournament flag set has been kind of make or break for a lot of these runs we've been seeing this week. Just a lot of strategic, what two partners I have available to me, what do their quests look like, how much damage can I do with what partner at set time, and their availability, like we saw with last night's async, I mean not async, but archipelago run, we saw a scenario where you started with Phoebe and had Tristram available, but if you talked to Tristram, your Phoebe was locked behind 3 other continents. Like you had to get 3 other coins to get back to grabbing that Phoebe. So there are decisions like that to be made in here. And speaking of decisions, Possumonphe diving into tree, checking Giant's axe chest, and getting rewarded with Dragon Claw early. Artea not too far behind that decision. I don't imagine Wild Ham is too far behind that either.
Yeah, and it was kind of neat to see Possumonphe make that decision. Hey, I'm going to check those first 4 chests in Giant's tree. Excuse me. You're already right there. They're really quick to check, and if you find, potentially one of your sky fragments, it was worth the time.
Yeah, for sure. And however, not being worth the time is going all the way up. Unfortunately, with this flag set, Giant Tree is just kind of a hole. It's great for farming fragments, potentially, but the inside of the tree only has 1 red vanilla check, and that's Meteor Chest, and that's locked behind defeating Ghidra in the randomizer. So not something you want to dive for, to say the least. RTA picking up that multi-key there, opening up the Hermit since we have a claw available once we find Fireberg, and basically guaranteeing a key item check here. So in terms of money routing this seed link, in these settings in general, how has money routing been impacting your running? Are you just kind of hitting low money battlefields as you go, or is it, the sooner you can grind up the levels on a money battlefield, the better?
It's kind of both, because like if you see a money battlefield right away, you can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone, get yourself some early levels depending on what battlefield it ends up being. And hopefully you get lucky and you hit that like 900 or 1200 GP battlefield on top of that. That's kind of the big thing, because you definitely know you're probably going to need some kind of money, at least to buy seeds at the bare minimum, but odds are you're going to need at least 1, if not multiple, of the items you have to buy from the merchants.
Indeed, and seed routing is definitely going to be huge for this tournament. I'll be interested to see if in this tournament set, if money wins out for farming for seeds, or if duping becomes the de facto strat of just buying 1 or 2 seeds and then duping whatever ones you need along the way, if that's going to be a faster strat. Really interested to see that. Speaking of interesting things, RTA getting a double steno battlefield, and it's not friendly at all.
Yeah, it doesn't seem friendly, and it's a blue battlefield as well, which we know they're prioritized, so we know that there's some kind of item here, so if you're going to spend the time, you're really hoping that you need this, but we'll find out.
That being said, it is a Fireberg region battlefield, so it will give good experience. Fireberg being the 3rd region of the game, most of the enemies here do get you about a level, maybe even 2 if you're lucky, per fight, if you're very low level.
Yeah, I got 1 encounter down. Yeah, and there's 4 of them too, so it's like, and like, I'm almost positive that even in, vanilla, or even if it's in its normal location, even if you're high level, you get ambushed by that one. Like, that's just a guarantee you get ambushed.
Yeah, it's like basically, it's like a coin toss almost. It feels like it's like 50-50, and most of the time it lands on heads. Ooh, double paralysis here. These ghosts, I don't know what it's been, but with this flag set, these double ghosts or double ghost and skeleton encounters have been the absolute worst. For whatever reason, their Randomizer just loves to roll them with status ailments out the wazoo, and if it's not status ailments, it's some hard hitting attacks. Those yellow ghosts, I think, have killed me in just about every seed I've rolled with these settings.
Yeah, I'm kind of paying attention down to Hataks and Wildham right now, because we see the Lamia encounter there. That's in the way of doing the quickest way of pushing the blocks. Like, you have to do that encounter. There is another way to do it without fighting that. It's kind of more like the vanilla intended way of how you would probably do it. But we'll see if they decide to do that. It looks like both of them are trying to take the fight. Since we are in the windy area, it is a good amount of experience if they can get it, but who knows what kind of health they have, what kind of skills they have, how much time are you wasting just to get this 1 encounter down.
Indeed, and Wild Ham actually, it looks to be that Ham has rolled the better formation here. While that Gargoyle can be a nasty piece of work, it's weak to shoot element, so Phoebe's going to one-shot that thing just about every time. But, he'll one-shot you too. It looks like 400 plus damage on that scrunch. But it looks like Hataks made it through the snake ladies and now going to go ahead and fight Mr. Krabs. Feeling pretty confident with the Giant's Axe. I don't know what it is, but every time I have a Giant's Axe, I'm like, Krabs not going to be an issue. And every now and again, he'll check me and have some just truly nasty moves. But generally, if you have Giant's Axe going into the crab fight, you're pretty well off. These double gins, though, giving RTA the business. I hate that battlefield. That double up battlefield in Fireberg is just the worst it feels like. It just rolls awful every time.
Yeah, I can say when I saw the blue one and I was like, oh, cool, blue one. It's like 4. I'm like, all right, maybe get some experience in it. I immediately saw the Medusa. So I'm just like, I don't want to do this, but it's blue. I kind of have to. So it's like, I think I'm going to go to I think I went to the other battlefields to pick up some levels to where I could, Ben could survive some attacks from these.
Looks like Ham is swapped to Madam President strats, and hopefully this will pay off for him. Just barely surviving that attack, but now having to make sure that Phoebe outspeeds that gargoyle, and I don't know if that's going to be... you hate to see it. While Hataks chopping up some crab meat over here, let's see what Mr. Krabs gives as his reward. Sand coin. So, Mr. Krabs gating progression. Meanwhile, Artea and Possum on their last set of battles, it looks like Artea's got 2 left, but opting to fade for a little bit. Meanwhile, Possum's just going to go ahead and just dive right in, try to finish it out, probably hoping for a coin here.
Yeah, I mean, it almost has to be a coin. I guess there are some other places like we could have to do Medusa and Volcano at this point, but the sand coin, odds are that's probably the progression moving forward if you're running and you get that.
Yep. And Captain's Cap. So it was a required battlefield, just not for progression's sake. So Possum, I imagine kicking himself a little bit after that, because that battlefield seemed like a time sink for early gamble. You take the early gamble, you come in at low level, and you're like, this is progression. It's got to be progression. And then you find out after doing crab, oh, Sandcoin was here. And then it's really kind of, I could have been saving so much time.
Yeah, like you're probably happy that it was something that you needed, but you're also like, it's kind of the 2 double-sided sword. Like you're happy you got something you needed, but it's like, how much time did I waste here? Like I could have come back later with, maybe wizard spells, make this a lot faster. Because you saw, especially you saw Ice Pyramid and Bone Dungeons, like odds are something's in there that you need, whether it's an item or just sky fragments, because Ice Pyramid seems to be loaded with sky fragments all the time.
Indeed. And the honestly, the bewildering play here is Hataks sticking out this battlefield all the way through after getting a sand coin. Honestly, after the first Steno fight, I would have dipped and be like, no, I'm coming back later with firepower. Peace. I'm headed to Aquaria. I'll catch you guys later. But opting to stick it through. Very interesting play here. RTA now getting his, or Artea getting his Captain's Cap and now running off to Falls Basin to fight Mr. Krabs. Honestly, after the Steno battlefield, Mr. Krabs kind of feels like a nice refreshing breather, especially after doing the Lamias, which it looks like all 4 of our runners on screen are going to do. No one's opting for the double pillar strats.
Yeah, I know. Me personally, I saw the encounter. I'm just like, I need to kill that. I'm just like, but I've got 2 of the pillars free. I can do the vanilla, or I don't know if it's vanilla, but it's like that's the way I did it as a kid. I'm like, that's the way I run. So I'll just go that way. Like I don't have to do this fight. It's fine.
Indeed, yeah. And I don't know what's your take on this? The triple Lamia or double Lamia Gargoyle being the better formation here? Personally, I would say double Lamia Gargoyle, but it looks to be the triple Lamia setup isn't being, I say not being nasty, and then RTA gets hit by Hammerang twice. So
I think all of them are bad. That's why I said no. It's just, to me, I was just like, I'm so low level. I mean, I think I was, because I did my battlefields first. I'm just like, hey, I want levels before crabs. And I did my battlefields, but I'm just like, this is still windy area. Like, I don't really have anything really good to fight this other than, swinging Giant's Axe or using Dragon Claws. It's like, I'd rather just avoid this fight right now.
Yeah. Honestly speaking, that is probably the best play you could have made right there. And it's something I probably would have done too. And you'll notice the difference. And like I said, when we talk about experience, me and you've been playing this randomizer for a while now, and especially with Overworld Shuffle and knowing the matchups and knowing the time sinks for some of these formations, some of me and you might play this a little more like, hey, I'll fade this and I'll come back to it later when I have firepower. Whereas the other runners are like, let's go all in and get this cleared out now because it could have something great for me, and unfortunately it doesn't pay off. Vanilla mega grenades, really?
I was gonna say, speaking of great, we have mega grenades. Those are hard required. We need those to finish the seed. Not to mention, we haven't had bombs yet, so that's even better because we can pretty much get anywhere in the game that isn't Ice Pyramid now, and that's not gated by like a coin that we don't have at the moment, which is just,
hey, look, the perfect battlefield for megas.
Hey. It's almost like the game planned for that, other than the fact that they have some kind of nasty spells, and it's like, nope, I'm kind of done right now.
Yeah, oozes will mess you up, man. It's like the one formation in the game I always kind of cringe at whenever I get to it. I'm like, triple oozes, no, because you can't just cheese it like every other fight. They have reflect, but mega grenades opening up a plethora of options here now for Possumonphe and soon to be now Hataks. They can go to mines. They can double back to Bone Dungeon. They could check for Tristram really quick and see if they could send him on his way before they go to the Bone Dungeon. I imagine that's the strat for a lot of our runners during this seed. What about you? Did you check Bone Dungeon before grabbing Tristram, or did you decide to wait for him?
So I did what Hataks actually did, and knowing that Aquaria had to be in Fireberg area, I took the Gemini Crest to go check this area out to see what I could find. Because I was looking for Tristram, like, yeah, I can do Bone Dungeon, but I was like, I still don't have a sword. I prefer to have a sword before going back there, because then I can knock out Ice Pyramid and Bone Dungeon at the same time.
Yeah, two very high density locations with a lot of good key item checks.
Which, coupled on the fact that I was, looking at the game info that we're able to get when we generate the seed, seeing like the side quests and when everybody was getting their spells, I'm like, Phoebe's probably going to be my endgame partner. She gets white at 23. I only have to clear 2 of her quests. Ruben, I need 3 of them. I'm going to have to find refreshers. I'm probably not defeating 7 mini bosses, so he's going to be 34. Like, Phoebe's are probably relatively easy to get. And speaking of a sword, we actually have a sword in mine. We have our Night Sword.
Yeah. Very nice. And then I see that Windia and Wintry Cave are available here. A cheeky centaur right at the beginning there. And Hataks is like, nope. Let me go shopping first. I'll be right back. But, Wintry Cave being right there and having Phoebe in the party, that's an easy check out of the way. And you can also, now that Meteor's been picked up, it's going to be half damage, but it's still damage to use against Squidite to clear out that fight really quick if you feel like making that play.
You'll see if anybody decides to make that play.
Yeah, Wintry Cave's not a bad location in this flag set. It does only have 2 key items available, but it does have a decent amount of brown boxes that could be shard chests. What is it like? It's got to be like 15 or so chests.
I'm trying to think.
All total.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 11, 12, maybe.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, about 11, 12. So that's a good amount of chests for not a very large dungeon. It's like 2 floors, 3 if you count the up and down. And it's not very stretched out. It's pretty well contained. Not a lot of steps in here.
Yeah, it's nice and quick to go through, and there's not a lot of like thin passages where you're forced into a fight. There's a few, but there's a pretty good chance you can get all the way to Squidite without even touching another enemy.
For sure. And, we saw there our runners who didn't go and get Night Sword were rewarded with Excal, which also being the better sword means that they don't have to go and do the check that Possum did to get a sword to go back to Ice Pyramid. Meanwhile, Artea picking up Gaia armor. That is going to be a huge boon. He's now afflicted with insomnia and is immune to poison and resistant to lightning, wind, and water.
Yeah, I would say it's my second favorite piece of armor in the game.
Yeah, Aegis Shield. No, I don't know. It's a toss-up between Aegis Shield and Cupid Locket for me.
Aegis Shield,
Cupid Locket.
I hate Petrify.
Cupid Locket for me, but that's just because I've been cursed by confusion luck a lot.
I'm just under the understanding my character can break out of confusion by itself. It can't do that with
Fair.
petrify.
Fair. I can see the reasoning behind that, and I can agree with it. Nevertheless, being bitten by oops, Phoebe whited the party is also something that kind of colors my disposition on that favoritism. Possum diving now, and hey, speaking of Cupid locket right now in Bone Dungeon on the Steel Shield check. I feel like that chest kind of trips up new runners just because you kind of forget it's there, especially if you're used to running vanilla. You don't even need to really get that check out of the way. It's just kind of like, Steel Shield is what it is.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice to see like all the runners are literally, they're going in completely different directions. We had Artea in Lava Dome, Possum with the, all of the weapons at this point. It's just like, hey, I've got 2 dungeons I can go do. And is probably thinking of that, save 3 crystals with Phoebe potentially. We've got Hataks did go into the back of Ice Cavern. And Wildham he picked up Ruben, so I'm thinking he's probably thinking, I'm going to go do the mine now.
Yep, and there he goes. And looking at Bone Dungeon here on Possum's screen, this leads into a good discussion with these flag settings, which is, how key in this tournament has peaking been for you? Because honestly, I feel like peaking done correctly can save you a ton of time with your routing. How important would you say that's been for the tournament flag set so far?
I think it's really important, especially like a dungeon like Ice Pyramid, to where you can technically skip every single side branch and see almost every chest doing the main path. Then you can be like, all right, I can skip that door, I can skip that door, I can skip that door, I need to go that way to pick up these, and then I can leave.
Yeah. Honestly, peak routing really, I think, came into another level once the optimal peak route for Ice Pyramid came into kind of adoption last tournament. I think I saw Freddy do it one time, and I was like, that's such a faster strat. And I know others were probably doing it before, but Fred was the first one I saw do that peak route, and I was like, that's so much better than what I was doing. And ever since then, I've run that peak route just because, like you said, you literally cut the first floor in half. You fade it, and if you have exit, you just double back and go grab that stuff later if you need it.
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't, it's a lot easier. It's like exactly what chest you're going for, so it's not like you take the branching path. You're like, all right, let me take this. It's like, all right, there's 30 seconds there. There's 45 seconds to chase. So it's like, all right, I can skip that. It's like you just know exactly where you're going. It makes it incredibly quicker.
Watch Ham screen real quick. I got a clip of this the other day, and he's about to do something crazy is about to happen on his screen. He explained in the Discord why it happened. But seeing it happen is just another thing entirely. So right now he's duping refreshers. He's basically gaming Ruben's quests so he can get him up to have white pretty early here. So spending a bit of time, especially since he's getting ambushed. But once he finishes out this battlefield, pay attention to where the hedgehog is going to be, because it's going to be a very interesting thing. And you blink, you miss it, but funny to see nonetheless. We might have a little bit of time here, but just kind of keep an eye on Ham's screen right here. Promise you, you'll get a chuckle at the very least. Artea making their way through Fireberg up here. Meanwhile, Possum is now diving Pyramid. We'll see if they take the peak strat. I always check these 2 chests in the bottom left. I don't know about you. At least those I don't peek. I always check those because they're like right there.
I skip them just because of the fact if I need to go like the ray that has 5 chests at all, I'm going to have to go back that way anyways. So I'm running right by the chests. If I don't, then when I leave, I just go grab, peek them or grab if there is something there.
Fair. Especially with these settings where they aren't going to be key items. They're just going to be shards. So I understand that. That makes sense. You're not having to go out of your way and dip. No, the centaurs are nasty. Truly the gatekeepers of Wintry Cave here. Double paralysis. Artea just... you hate to see it. I hate being double paralyzed. It's the absolute worst.
I think we're probably getting relatively close to Wildham's little fun thing that's about to happen.
Meanwhile, Hataks getting a charm necklace for all of his trouble going through muck, but also saving Aaron. So one bad check could lead to something good later. We'll see if that pays out. Aaron's such a troll. It's between Aaron and Libra Temple check. Those two get runners, I feel like, a lot of the time, because you think it's just one check and I have to go out of my way for it, but then you fade it and all of a sudden it's got your like last go mode piece.
Yeah, it's one, especially like I feel like Aaron's not so bad if you have everything. It makes that decision. You just like, hey, I got Ruben, I can do Ruben one check. There's already a incentive chest there to begin with. On top of saving Aaron, it's like, all right, 3 checks, yes. Whereas Libra Temple's like, yeah, Libra Temple.
Yep. And I don't know if you caught it there, chat. We were talking, but Wild Ham, upon killing the hedgehog, Cyan then decided he's the boss now, and turned into the enemy for a split second there with a weird coloring. I believe that glitch is caused because he item duped and cleared a battlefield with an item reward at the same time, basically making the game go, I don't know what to do with Ben, and it just threw him in the enemy spot for the pop-up.
The confusion was so great that even the game didn't know what to do.
Right. Getting some interesting crossover here. Possum really structured in his backup save situation here. I believe Possum comes from the Worlds Collide community, so I think I can understand that save structure. It's like, I'm making a backup here. Okay, this looks like a possible backup point, so I'm going to make another backup here. And really working his way through the save files. I honestly just stick to one and, live with my demons, but, I could see Possum's strat being a little bit better in that sense, especially if you hit something relatively nasty.
Yeah, it almost feels like, ooh, Squidite has, I don't know if we had
corrode
somebody
gas.
clear, but Squidite's got corrode gas, so that's not fun.
Oh, that is not fun at all. Ham now making his way back to the Steno/Bone Dungeon area. And going to be clearing out Bone Dungeon. Meanwhile, Possum and Hataks both considering Lava Dome. It looks like they might be gated progression-wise here. I think we already saw Artea go through Lava Dome. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think part of the way, we didn't clear it. So there's still something at Hydra. But, I mean, even if you might just be doing the front, because you've got Mega Grenades, the 2 incentive checks aren't that bad to do. Because yeah, it's like right now it's just like, what kind of offense do you have for Hydra? That's the question, and that's kind of where I was at this point. I did the Bone Dungeon Ice Pyramid personally, and I was just like, all right, I've got 2 crystals, Phoebe's still 15, I've got Meteor. I won't say anything else, but I've got Meteor. I'm like, that's my offense against Hydra. I'm just like, that still doesn't feel great for Ben to be your only offense on Hydra, because Hydra does Hydra things.
Correct. And Ruben, you could consider taking him in here, but you'd have to make the time investment to level him up to a decent stature to getting there. Artea buying the Noble Armor. I don't know if they just kind of mashed the menu there. They had a Gaia armor, but I guess if you're content with your money and your seeds, just mash A and win. I'll be interested to see if Possum or Hatak go all the way through here. This is your stopping point. So after you check Moon Helmet here, if they're, regardless of what you get from here, most folks will fade the rest of the dungeon from here, especially with key item check locations turned on, just because the rest of the dungeon's kind of lengthy. You can get some good RNG and not have to fight anything, but that's still a lot of steps to take to get through here, and our runners are still looking for Thunder Rock. I think that's the only thing that we're missing for Go mode. Possum currently being in the lead, the only one with the Mobius Crest right now in terms of Go mode items needed. But yeah, I at this point, it kind of boils down to where is T-Rock and who finds it first.
Yeah, and it's like, and if you find T-Rock, I mean, obviously you're probably, we're still looking for fragments too, but it's just like, all right, where's your comfort level? What do you need to go to Dark King? Because, going to Dark King with a level 15 Ben and a level 15 Phoebe with Meteor as your damage, which Possum doesn't even have Meteor. So it's like, you're probably not very happy about that, and you're probably still looking for things.
Indeed. Yeah, and we've seen crazier things before. I think Artea and Farfalu, 2 of our more riskier players, they both basically pulled a strat in one of the qualifiers where they just didn't have damage. They had like mediocre level, I think level 23 partner, and they just went in with weapons and did it the old-fashioned way and, you know, triaged their way through the fight. And it was a bit of a lengthy fight, but it can be done. They got to Dark King insanely fast. It's just losing out on that time because you don't have the damage to get through King, but it played out for them well in the end because they could just triage through the fight. That's the kind of gambles you're going to see in this tournament. Speaking of gambles, Ham getting wrecked by those beholders, man. The windy of formations in Bone Dungeon do not make this a fun place. I think we saw Possum use the shifting floor to skip past this fight. He did a clever jump into walking after landing on the shifting floor right before the boss and skip this fight. But Ham, unfortunately, either didn't make the skip properly or just didn't think to do it, and is now having to make their way through the fight. Now getting some good RNG here, clearing it out, no problem.
Yeah, if I remember right, the beholders were typically pretty fast and had like flame breath, and were hitting the party for like 600 plus.
And Ham does not have the Apollo helmet that everybody that Artea and Hataks have. I think got that from Squidite. Squidite gave Apollo helmet. Blink and you miss it, chat. Hi Rex. Bye Rex. P94, not a bad HP Rex by any means, but nothing awful.
So since we're on the fast boss kills, well, what's your favorite boss to kill and how?
Honestly, it's got to be the Rexes. And, you know, funny story for anybody who watched or might have missed the summer marathon AP run I did with Chanigan. During practice for that run, we did FFR cross Mystic Quest to kind of promote the monthly asyncs. So we did a pretty high level seed, and we got to Rex, and I was under leveled with a partner who couldn't do the life kill. And so I had Dragon Claw, and we were on Skuller's Rex, and I just started chanting in practice, RNG, RNG, and I hit him, and it killed him on the first shot. And I was like, yes! And, you know, being a troll that I am sometimes, I did the same thing in the marathon, and it worked. So I got a first turn Dragon Claw kill on Skuller's Rex, kind of blew out my microphone because of I didn't believe it happened the second time, but that's got to be my favorite way to kill him. It's not efficient at all by any means, but the fact that you can petrify Skuller's Rex is just hilarious to me.
Yeah, I think my favorite, it's usually not a one-turn kill, but I think my favorite is Ben's moment to be the VIP and just flaring Ice Golem.
Ugh, I love melting that snowman. That or banishing Stone Golem to the Shadow Realm is always satisfactory every time. You're just like, hi, Stone Golem. Whoop. Bye, Stone Golem.
Don't know where you went. Don't care where you went. You're gone now. Not my problem.
Yep, I don't even want your XP. Just get out of here. You're slow. So it looks like everybody else is backtracking on their own routes. Hataks did decide to go for the full dive here. I'll be interested to see his shard count by the time he gets through here. There's a lot of red I'm seeing on the screen, though, in the treasury. We've got 2 shards down here. I saw at least 2 more up in the treasure room proper. Yeah, there's 2 right there. There might even be 4.
So he's at 12 right now because he got the quest complete, and Ruben had the quest for 10 sky fragments. So this would be 13 right here for Hataks.
Yeah, so this is a good check all in all. And even if you weren't going to commit to Hydra in here, doubling back out of this room really isn't that bad because you get introduced to a scalable wall that you can drop down right outside the treasury room, and you can instantly leave Lava Dome from here. So this is actually a really good bailout point if you decide to jump in this deep but still not fight Hydra and you don't have exit. But this is kind of your last check afterwards. It's going into Hydra, and at that point most people are too stubborn to fade that fight, so you're kind of in it to win it or not at all at that point.
Yeah, you're either fighting Hydra or you're fading Hydra. Be like, well, if that's where a go mode is, rest in peace, my run.
Yep. Oh, Hataks having to double back down these steps. These trip me up sometimes too. I forget that you have to walk past these steps and then go down, grab that chest, and then double back up here and jump if there is a shard in that location. Meanwhile, Ham doing the full dive on Pyramid. I didn't see anybody pick up flare yet. I have not seen that as an option. Honestly, the enemies in here are nasty. So many status ailments. I think every time I've glanced down at Ham, he's got some sort of status ailment on the party. Ruben not having immunity to any of those doesn't help either. Ooh, there's confusion. But he smacks the problem away.
So I would like to say that I know that, but apparently when the chat was like, "Hey, here's the times," I didn't run into any of it on Ice Pyramid. The worst thing that happened to me is why I felt like, man, I'm like gonna fall behind. Is I won't say where I finished, but I was in Ice Pyramid and I got into one of the encounters that Artea is at, where the Beholder, and I had like, I think it was 5 or 6 tries in a row where Beholder got first turn and immediately just flame breath my party and wipe. And I'm just like, all right, you know what? I had to have saved right before this fight because I typically do. And I'll just go for a different, set. We'll get just like the Mana Core and the Dolahan. We'll be fine. And my save was like 7 minutes ago instead. So I lost all of Bone Dungeon, half of Ice Pyramid, some other stuff. I'm like, all right, well, now it's time. I'm going to be gambling my butt off and seeing what happens.
Yeah, you hate not saving before a fight, and especially if you lose a lot of time here. Just because, you're in a race situation, so you already have a little bit of performance anxiety, depending on how your personality is. I think everybody experiences it just to different degrees. Some folks do really well under pressure and they perform excellently, but there still is that little bit of anxiety. So that being compounded with, something like that would push some folks over the edge. But you're pretty calm under pressure, I find, most of the time. Like, you'll get on your own case, but I find that you're pretty chill most of the time. You're level-headed, at least from what I've seen from your play style.
Yeah, I mean, I try to be, especially when you're doing a race like that, because getting in your own head or beating yourself up, it's just going to start to compound the mistakes at that point. And then, you're going to get worse and worse and worse until you eventually, go full tilt or just be like, you know what, I'm done. Just forfeit and be like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, keeping your calm helps you not crack under the pressure. And honestly, we had one of our qualifiers on the Async finish in last place, and I think he had a really good attitude about it, though. It's like, I at least finished. And I'm like, honestly, you joke, but that's the best mentality you can come into whenever you're practicing or competing in anything, is at least I finished. Because you can always look back at how you did, look at how you stacked up against everybody else. It's like, here's where I need to improve, and here's how I'm going to do it. And I think that plan of attack is great. Speaking of plan of attacks, Hataks has finally found Tristram. Poor dude was locked behind Lava Dome. Thankfully, it looks like life was the reward for Hydra. Honestly, I think that makes that fight worth it. You can do King without life, but that's kind of... It's a risky play. I won't say it's sketch, but it's definitely risky. It can be done, though, if done properly.
So here's the fun question. That's where life was. Did you see what Wilding found in Ice Pyramid?
I saw Flare, I think.
Yeah, so after the drop down, not only did he find Flare, but all of the 3 chests had Scott fragments too. There were 4 red chests after dropping down.
Yeah, Ice Pyramid is like one of the goats for locations. I think it's second to me only behind Bone Dungeon for these flag settings, just because Bone Dungeon is so quick. It's like, what, 4 or 5 screens, and there's nothing really too hazardous in the way in terms of traversal, and the enemy fights like are few and far between. So it's just, you get in, you get out, you get your goods, and there's 4 key item checks in there if you bring Tristram.
Yeah, it's definitely quick, and yeah, like if you have exit, it's even better. But we're still missing that lovely spell.
We are missing the good book, but my favorite part of Ice Pyramid coming up here. Ham's about to melt a snowman. I love melting the snowman. I love seeing that big 4,000 or 3,900 every single time. It just puts a big smile on my face. 3,997. You'll love to see it.
Yeah, when I was just like, I got down, it's like, all right, we'll fight Ice Golem the proper way, and I dropped down and I got Flare. I'm like, never mind, he's getting melted.
Bye-bye, Snowman. 2-turn fight. Meanwhile, Possumonphe is getting stuck with the same double paralysis that we saw Wild Ham stuck in early, and Artea getting stuck behind some rather nasty dogs. Of course, we know that Flare, being their weakness, is at the bottom floor, but they're going to make it down there first. And man, what any of these runners would not give to get a Venus or an Aegis shield at this point. How many times have we seen everybody get paralyzed at this point?
The answer is yes. They've been paralyzed like 50% of the seat, I think. But
yeah. So not having those shields has just been like, man, just throw it in my face, why don't you?
That's why, like, I'm watching this. I'm like, I didn't see any of this. I'm just like, wow. Ice Pyramid was really nice to me, apparently. it felt bad. It felt bad because, like, you know, we kind of made you lose 7 minutes. So here, we're just going to let you go by this time. So have fun.
Yeah. No, I mean, RNG on these fights is definitely going to be king, whether or not you get through it or not. Oof. Speaking of double dogs taking out Artea, you got to feel bad. Because, like, usually this is a throwaway fight, but honestly, like, with the attacks that are being thrown out here and not topping up before you come into these fights, really giving Artea the business here, thankfully getting through there with that Meteor cast. Probably going to top up before there's still a hand fight. Yeah. Definitely the play to make. I don't mess around when it comes to Windia region enemies, personally. Like, I top up before every single one of those fights because they can mess me up, unless I have, like, Flare or something, and I know I can get through them quickly, you know?
I mean, even then, it's just like, what are my levels? Because, you know, if you're still in, you know, we're in the teens. Mm-hmm. Some of them are probably going to outspeed you. So you've got to be able to survive some of their attacks. And, you know, if they have status effects, you gotta have to pray that they don't give you that status effect. But that doesn't seem the way it goes.
Yeah, I keep bringing him up because I'm just so enamored with how much of a glow up the extended spellbook has given him with Quest Extended. But Tristram, like, really gives Tristram a horse in this race when it comes to being a partner for the end game. Yes, you have to get him to get all 4 quests with him to make him a viable Dark King partner. But, like, man, is he fast, and he's so chunky. He's got so much HP compared to everybody else. So having a first turn meat shield after you get a couple levels into him just feels great sometimes, you know?
Yeah, and, you know, he's got exit. So so it's like, even if he doesn't have that offense, it's like, if he's got a couple easy quests, like, hey, I have free exit. I don't even really care that you can't do much else right now. You're doing what I need you to do, and that's getting me out of dungeons quickly.
Yep. The utility he brings with exit is simply unbeatable, especially if you have late game exit. Everybody making their way through the dungeon here. Ham actually making the play that we suggested earlier, fading this battleground until later when he's got some firepower to come into it, having a much nicer time going into it, and will be rewarded with the captain's cap for that. He got in and out, easy peasy. Getting through that battlefield, no problem with the combination of teams he has right now.
Yeah, so as far as, like, progression and how far we are from go mode, he just caught up with Artea and Possum. I'd almost actually say he's ahead of them now, because he's cleared Ice Pyramid. They're still in there. He's cleared both Bone Dungeon and that. So we'll kind of see where he's off to next, because kind of uncharted territory potentially. Not a lot has really opened up with what we found. I mean, we have access to pretty much everything. I believe the big thing that's locked is Pazuzu's Tower, which we saw there, but that's locked behind Wakewater, which we don't know where that is yet.
Has anybody talked to Aaron yet? Have we seen what Aaron has?
I think only one person's actually went and saved Aaron.
Right. So if this seed's rolling a vanilla T-Rock, that'll be like a huge oh man moment for runners. Having done it myself, it's like, I hate when Aaron has vanilla T-Rock, but, you know, it's only because I think we all tend to fade him. Because if you think about it, he's a pretty easy check. Like, even if you have to double back into Mines, like, Mines is not very long. And you just kind of walk in, throw a grenade, and leave. But I think it's the, well, something else could have it mentality kind of gets you before you decide to go check Aaron.
I think it's that idea that it's just like, if you fade him, you kind of want to wait until you have exit to do it, because it feels bad to walk all the way back for him and then have to leave again. Whereas it's like, if I just got to walk back to him and exit, it doesn't feel so bad.
Yeah, no, that's true. Speaking of exit, I still have not seen the good book anywhere. Looks like everybody's backtracking on each other, though. Ham doing his dive into Lava Dome now, and everybody else making their way through Pyramid. Possum wrapping up, making his exit trip while we're going to see him high five Hataks on his way in. And Artea almost to the end here, I think, making their way to the Golem.
All right, so I know there are 2 locations that I just thought about. I'm just like thinking, all right, what haven't we checked yet? And there's 2 locations that have basically been available since the very beginning of the game that nobody's checked. We have Medusa. Nobody's went back to kill Medusa now that we have firepower. And we also found the Dragon Claw right at the beginning of the game with an axe. Giant's Tree has been there since essentially the word go.
And no one wants to take on Ghidra just because it's such a long trek to go kill a mini boss, to go back down the floor 2, to then go through a room that you have to cut mushrooms through to go talk to a door to then check the meteor chest. But if Ghidra's gating go mode, that's also another pretty nasty check to get through. Pete Tower, I think, was frozen in the upper section of Aquaria, if I remember seeing that. I might be getting my seeds mixed up, though. Keep me honest here, like.
Nope, that is correct. We saw that on, I believe it was Wildham side when we were going to Lava Dome. But
yep. So, I mean, even though they have Dragon Claw, P Tower, normally a pretty quick check after you get Dragon Claw. But since it's gated behind Wake Water, unless we're doing quest chains tonight, which totally possible with logic, might not be the best place for T-Rock to be. Anybody who's finished Ice Pyramid also has Libra Crest, and we know that Libra Temple is available. So making a quick dip in the Libra Temple could net a good reward for our runners here as well. You tend to kind of forget about Libra Temple just because Libra Crest only has 1 key item check behind it, but it's pretty quick. You get in, you get out, you get your goods, and you leave. So that could be gating something pretty important for our runners tonight. We'll see how that goes if anybody checks it.
yeah, I think the biggest problem with Libra Temple is where it is. It's back in the very first area of Foresta, where also Giant's Tree and Medusa are. So it's like there's going back there. It's really, if you don't have a way to warp there, which we don't because all the dungeons or all the towns are in other locations, then it takes a bit to get back there. And it's like, do you want to just go back potentially for Libra Crest? Or are you also making that play? Like, if I go back, I'm also doing Ghidra and or Medusa while I'm there.
Yeah, and you bring up an interesting point. I think, honestly, that's why we proposed these flag sets for this year, is it's infinitely viable, or at least reusable, to do Overworld Shuffle in these settings, because with Overworld Shuffle turned on, there's no route. There's no optimized route like we had in the last couple tournaments where everybody kind of made the same checks. By the end of the tournament, everybody was making the same kind of routing decisions. Just because there was an optimal route to make, you can make an argument for a couple splitting branches near the end, but generally you kind of make the same plays early game. With Overworld Shuffle, you have to route on the fly, and that it really challenges the knowledge of our runners here and the decisions they have to make, whether or not those pay off. So it's been infinitely entertaining for me, and we're only like 3 races in.
Not only that, it also tests like memory or note taking as well, because since not everything's where you're used to it being, you kind of have to either, while you're running through the overworld, marking down where things are somehow, or remembering, because that might be the thing too, is like Libra Temple's in the, the windy area, and you go check and it's like, that's not where Libra Temple is. Like, where's Libra Temple now?
Yeah, you get a little bit of the Bone Dungeon syndrome from when you have vanilla Overworld, where you kind of forget that Bone Dungeon exists if you don't check it the first time. And as soon as you leave Foresta, you really don't want to go back. Speaking of going back, Artea picking up Ruben here. Looks like they might be making the full mine dive here. We'll save Aaron on the way if they do decide to go through Jin. Meanwhile, Possum taking on a battleground here. Looks like for cash, I can't quite make out which battlefield that is, what the reward is. And Ham now going in with Ruben at 23. I don't think he has white at this level range. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, he would need another one, which is either the ones we would have is the 10 sky fragments and 22 refreshers. So have to thaw Aquaria, don't have Wake Water, or defeat 7 mini bosses, which I believe is on the table. But again, that's going and fighting a bunch of mini bosses that may have nothing and is a huge waste of time.
If I remember correctly, that's all but one. That's like literally, I think there are 8 mini bosses. Minotaur.
Are there only? Yeah, are there only 7?
I think there's 8. So we've got Minotaur, we've got a Medusa, we've got Squidite, we've got Dualahan. That's 4. We also have Jin. We've got Jin is 5.
No, I think there's one in forest area. You got Minotaur. You've got Crab and Squidite. You've got Jin and Medusa, and you've got Ghidra and Dualahan. Unless I'm just missing one.
That is 7. I can't.
I don't think there's another. I'm trying to think. I don't think there's another mini boss. I think that's all it is.
Yeah, I think that is it. Chat,
in which case, then, yeah, if there is one and we're missing, tell us. But if that's the case, then it's not, because we don't have Tree Wither. So we can't do that. We need a Tree Wither for all 7. Which, if we had the Tree Wither, you'd probably be seeing people taking Phoebe because she would have white right now.
Yes, we are missing Behemoth. He fell off the cliff at the very beginning of the run. We didn't even get to see him perish. Oh, finally checking Aaron here. Battle Axe. So no vanilla T-Rock for our runners here. Feels bad to get a downgraded weapon for going out of your way, but at least they got Ruben's check and Aaron's check done at the same time. So not the worst play in the world from Artea here.
And we saw Possum check this, that blue battlefield that Artea might be doing right now. It looks like he's going to, because we're about to save. This was just Quake, which feels really bad for this specific battlefield. Is you get Quake, it's like, oh, thanks, I hate you.
Awesome. I had to fight through oozes for this, and they're not exactly a walk in the park. Meanwhile, Wild Ham going through and getting his Tristram sent back to Bone Dungeon now. I don't think anybody's made a backtrack for the Sketch Ninja quite yet to see what they're holding on to, but probably feels good to have that life in the pocket.
No, I'm pretty sure nobody has checked, because that's, to my knowledge, everybody's cleared both Bone and Ice Pyramid. That's all that's there right now until you find Thunder Rock now. So, I mean, it could be locking something, but it's just like, it feels, might feel kind of bad to go there for that one check and then you find, a shield. Or, well, I mean, I guess with all the status effects, you've already got Steel Shield, you'll probably actually be happy to find a shield. Unless you're Hataks, you've got Aegis Shield, so you don't want anything.
Yeah. Having that Aegis Shield has got to feel great, because after all the paralysis that's been thrown around, being immune to that's just like, haha, and not having to worry about Petrify now is a blessing. Everybody's backtracking on each other. I'm trying to see who makes the play first to go back to Forest region. I don't see Tree Wither on the table. Elixir is there, but no Tree Wither makes that not viable. Hataks also missing Captain's Cap. I'm trying to remember where everybody picked that up at. It looks like it was a battlefield, right?
Yeah, Blue Battlefield in Windia had that.
That's right. Hataks the first to run back to Foresta here, making a rope bridge detour. Never mind.
Oh, there's Libra. It's like, oh, okay, we're checking Libra finally. So new stuff.
Yep, it's like, that's right, Libra. I have the crest. And there's Tree Wither. So no Elixir on Hatax's side of the screen means that he'll only be able to do Minotaur, but at least that is a pretty quick check to make, all things considered. I don't think Foresta was too far away from the level Forest tile in this shuffle, correct?
It actually was. Level Forest was right next to Libra, and Foresta was like close to, I think it was like Volcano Lava Dome area.
Yeah, so this is going to be a bit of a hike. Hatak stopping by this blue battlefield, though. Probably just going to go ahead and clear these out with Megas, all things considered. It's going to be the faster route. Now, when it comes to these quick battlefields, what's your go-to strat? I think, personally, for me, if I've got Megas going into these Forest or region battlefields, I'll put my partner on Defend. I won't even bother with auto or attack. It's just, bombs and then Defend to save the text boxes and animations. How about you?
Yeah, I mean that if I have, Megas, if not, I'll just throw probably a wizard spell, or if I've got a high level, not Quake essentially. then I'll throw that out.
Yeah, and it's those little optimizations that'll save you seconds, but seconds that could win you the race here. And we'll see those strategies develop as more and more folks kind of look at each other and watch the speed strats and pick up from each other as we go through the tournament here. I always find the development of the newer players especially interesting in these settings. Hataks now having the elixir pickup now, so can do the full mom quest chain. It's just a matter of if they want to do the full mom quest chain. Making their way over to Aquaria though, which I believe was in the same area as Foresta. So
yes.
It looks like that might be on the table. Possum being our second runner now to get their tree wither. Gonna go ahead and check the other locations, kind of remember what's here. There's Volcano on the table. Possum going for Medusa, it looks like. So here's our divergence to watch between Hataks or Possum. Let's see whose gamble pays off in the long run here. Does Medusa have go mode, or is this behind Kaylee's mom? Good little safety save in here. You never trust Medusa, ever.
No. And it's like, it's kind of interesting because I'm like looking at everybody's status where we got, you know, where the runners are kind of similar. The biggest one is Wildham's got 3 crystals. If he wanted to go get Phoebe, which maybe he might be doing since he's back in Windia now, Phoebe has white, and that's what it looks like he's doing compared to Ruben, who doesn't really have much anymore.
Yeah, and Ruben not having white really does kind of gimp him as a partner because he really doesn't bring a lot to the table. Otherwise, he's got fire resistance and that's it. Morningstar hits like a truck, but it doesn't hit nearly as hard as white. And speaking of being hit hard, it's got to feel like a blow to the chest to see that steel sword come out of a Medusa fight. Thankfully, it was only like, what, 3 or 4 turns? So not the end of the world. But Hataks here wrapping up Minotaur. Let's see what's given here. Venus key. So we got a check that leads to other checks. And a quest complete. It looks like 7 mini bosses have been cleared on Hataks' side.
Okay, then there is one we're missing. I don't know what it is.
Did we mention Dualahan when you went through
Yeah.
your check?
Yeah, because I know two in Windia, 2 in Firebird, 2 in Aquaria, and then there's the one, unless there's another mini boss in Forest area that I'm just not thinking of, and they all have 2, but I don't think there is. I think it's just
Interesting.
Minotaur.
Yeah, I can't think of another one either, but I've been wrong before. I'll never put it
Unless
past
like
myself
it
to be
gives you
wrong
a
about
free
something.
mini boss because you don't do that fight at the beginning of the vanilla game, and that's like, hey, technically it's a mini boss because it can kill you. I've died to it multiple times while I was a kid. It's like, hey, it's the first fight, it can't kill me, and it murders you.
Totally wrecks you. Phoebe had the defeat Minotaur quest. That's where she got the level up from. Ham chiming in here with the clutch information. It is 7 fights. Speaking of clutch information, Artea getting bodied by this wyvern Hydra, only having a level 15 Ruben going into this fight. But Meteor, so I think a couple of tries will get him through this fight. Hataks also now feeling the pain of that steel sword. It gotta feel. Be honest with me, like, did you make the steel sword check?
No.
That explains a lot.
So
it's such a slap in the face.
So I came here with the intention of doing Medusa when I pulled the Tree Wither out of Libra. My Phoebe was, I still hadn't even picked up Ruben yet. Like Ruben was sitting there like a good boy waiting for me to come pick him up to do mind checks. I still had Phoebe, and Phoebe was 15. And I was just like, oh, Phoebe's got defeat Minotaur. I'm like, that's level 23, which means Phoebe has white, which means I can go clear anything I want and not be afraid of getting hit. And I forget what I did after that, but yeah.
Interesting. And yeah, that play ultimately seemed to be the better one to make in the ending because, again, Medusa not doing anybody any favors, taking a little bit of time and giving Bunk as reward. Ham now going to Dualahan. This is the strongest mini boss in the game, and he's known to be a bit of a troublemaker. Only going in with a level 23 Phoebe is not going to be a fun time, but with the firepower on Ben's side of the field should be leveled out. We've got Meteor available, which is going to be doing a good chunk of damage. We'll just put Phoebe on triage after the first turn. And there's our Wake Water. Hataks finding Wake Water through Kaylee's mom. Now going to go make his way back to Aquaria to thaw out the region. Might do a P tower check. I mean, I would do it. It's right there. There's two red chests for the taking. You don't have to fight Jerkbird.
I know what I'm doing first.
Spencer's Cave?
Spencer's Cave and back of Forest, or Focus Tower. That's 4 free checks, essentially. But we're not. So no Spencer's. We're not going to check Spencer's, though. That's kind of interesting. I guess maybe you're hoping you find the Thunder Rock here in Focus Tower?
Or maybe saving Spencer's for after you free max ship.
We need Thunder Rock for that. Which, speaking of Thunder Rock,
There it is.
So that's, no, Hataks is not in go. Oh, wait. Okay, I guess we missed the mark on Captain's Cap, because he's got that, then we're in go mode.
Indeed. So Hataks now sprinting. I think the nerves got to him a little bit because he's sprinting around. Oh, no. He's going to go talk to... What am I talking about? He's going to go talk to Otto. He knew exactly where he was going. So sprinting off to Otto to build that Rainbow Road before going through Focus Tower to get over to Windier region. And we'll see we might see what Spencer has. Honestly, I don't think he really needs to talk to Spencer for any key items at this point. He's got his major firepower with Flare. I don't know if he's gotten life yet. Do we know?
No, he has. He had to, unless he just skipped the chest from Hydra. He's cleared Lava Dome, so yes, he would.
Okay. Yeah. So he's got life. He's got Flare. That's really all you need for the final fight for Ben.
Yeah.
Artea now getting Tristram's reward of Aegis Shield. That's probably the best thing Tristram's handed to anybody, being perfectly honest. Did we see what Tristram 2 was handing out?
I don't know if anybody's actually been back at this, because it would have only been Hataks, and I don't know if Hataks actually checked Tristram 2. He might have been working on it, but I think he went to just go check Elixir, and then it's like, oh, go mode, I'm good. And, does check, and we get Thunder and other things, but we don't care.
Now the long trek back, not having any warps out of Windia to the major city is a bit painful.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is the worst part about map shuffle, is when this happens and it's like, hey, Windia's not in the area, and now it's like, and there's no quick way. It's like, all right, run across the map, have fun.
Yeah, you kind of miss that. You start to miss the inner city travel teleportation system once it's taken away from you. Artea now getting their Tree Wither, which we know will ultimately culminate in the Wake Water / Venus Key, Venus Tower, North Focus Tower check for go mode for T-Rock here. Talks first on max ship, though, being first in go mode. Checking the bow for some reason, I guess. Just checking to see if there's a shard. I think they're good on shards, though, aren't they? Or not?
Maybe not. Maybe they are not. I don't know, because it's like we unfortunately don't have a good way to track it. But I think I still needed one when I was coming to max ship, and I want to say I picked that one up off the, and then there's 2 more. I'm almost positive I picked that one up next to the where you start climbing.
Yeah, and honestly, max ship is almost always guaranteed to have 1 shard on it for the amount of brown checks on max ship. Now, they're not really great to go get, besides a couple that are along the way, but they are there. They are available.
Actually, unless maybe it was just something that was missed, which we've got Wildhem tracking for us, and he's trying to track all 4 runners at the same time. They're all going in different directions, so if something got missed, I'm not going to blame him for missing anything. I know I probably would have missed things myself, but Artea we're missing the Venus Key, both on Wildhem side and Artea side. So Artea's got the Tree Wither, and even if it does that chain, if finding the Elixir too, needing that, we're still don't have a way to get to the Thunder Rock.
Indeed, and I'm trying to remember where Venus Key was. Not the Live Forest. I don't think it was part of a partner reward.
Don't think so.
I don't think Minotaur gave out the key, or was it Minotaur that gave out the key?
Oh yeah, it was. Never mind, it was Minotaur that gave the key. So yeah, okay, that's why they don't. So they'll get
Minotaur
it here.
Yep.
Need the Elixir.
Indeed, which is a battlefield away, but Artea does not know that. Neither does Ham yet. Meanwhile, Hataks going on to Dark King here. In terms of 1 to 10 difficulty, well, how would you rank this king for tonight?
If I remember right, phase 1 was like 5 out of 10 because it was actually doing decent damage. I think after that I didn't care anymore. Like nothing scary came out whatsoever, if I remember right.
Phase 1 Chunky King always jump scares me because he'll hit you with like branch for like 700 to 800 damage. You're like, whoa. And then after you power through phase 1, it's like, all right, we're chill. Ugh, the crit.
Yeah,
I hate seeing those moves crit.
That happened a lot to me. That's why I was just like, I hated phase 1 because like, hey, crit. I'm just like, Dark King I'm just like, I just want to get past phase 1 at this point. I don't care. Just phase 2's got to be better, right?
Just break out the swords. Let's do the proper fight. Come on. And it looks like he's fast too. So outspeeding Phoebe there, that's an annoying fight to take, but can also be consistent if there's nothing scary coming out like gold webs, silver webs, mega flare, things like that. So let's see how Hataks gets through phase 2 here. It's middling damage attacks, nothing crazy so far. So like you said, phase 1 was the gatekeeper. It's looking like so far. There's exit. It was in the other chest.
Oh boy.
So interesting seeing Hataks just fade the other check. And he's like, nope, I got my T-Rock. Let's get out. While Possum's like, let's check the other chest real quick and getting rewarded with exit. Although super late game exit, like ridiculously late game. It's not even gonna help you that much. Maybe getting out of max ship quickly.
Hey, it's a little bit of a time save.
It is a little bit of a time save. You're right. It's like a 20-second time save, I think. Getting from bottom of max ship out to the wheel. That's about 20 seconds ish.
Yeah, but Possums and Go mode 2 were checking this battlefield. We'll see. I think it was money. We have Samson. It no longer Dark King. Turned into Samson.
I have seen this sprite before, and it's honestly, it's wild. I have no idea what game it's from, but the detail in that sprite work is, it's a thing.
Certainly is.
I'm always impressed with some of the sprites that we break out for True Form of Dark King because they find the most detailed, like intense sprites for some of these true forms. I think we had like a giant mech monster for one of them that took up the entire field, and I was like, God, this is so cool. Last night for the AP race, we had like some sort of demon soul wall. So, you know, shout outs to our amazing spriting community coming up with more and more interesting and unique boss sprites as we move into phase 4 here for Hataks. Looking to be the one who will be finishing first in tonight's Async on screen. Possum now freeing max ship and making their way through it. Artea going down the vanilla route for Spencer's Cave, maybe hoping to get a couple goodies, banking on T-Rock being here instead of rushing North Focus Tower, which unfortunately we know is not the play, but it's a play to make, especially when you have Venus Key.
And Hataks is done and finishes
with a 104.39. Now that we have our first finisher on screen, chat, I will let you know that we did have another runner finish before Hataks. He's in the booth with me right now. Linkolite, you finished with a 101.11. Looking at Hataks' routing, I know you mentioned that you didn't do a couple things that he did, and it saved you ultimately 3 minutes in the long run, not to mention the 7 minutes you lost in your routing. How different would you say your routing was compared to his?
I would say I think the big thing is, like, I don't remember Hataks entirely, but like I know I went to Fireberg area with Gemini Crest really before doing a lot. And when I pulled my sword, I think I did like 1 or 2 more checks in Fireberg area before I just rushed Bone Dungeon and Ice Pyramid, and I'm like, hey, there's probably fragments there. I've got like 8 checks. Like, I'm gonna find something I need in that area. And then I'm essentially done with that area 100% until I need to go for free max ship at that point. And then with everything I got there, we got the Libra Crest there. I was like, all right, my best play, like I didn't want to do Lava Dome. That was the big thing. I was like, I wasn't comfortable with Lava Dome with a 15 partner and having just Flare and Meteor, no life on Ben. I'm just like, if he's got anything bad, like I could be dead really quickly and be wasting a bunch of time. So that's when I hit Libra Crest right away. Libra Crest turned into Branch. I was like, Branch gives me, another level to Phoebe. That's going to give her white. That frees up Lava Dome, which I hadn't even been in for Mega Grenade checks yet. Like, that's 3 checks there. That's probably a bunch of fragments, and that's probably, that might be the rest of the fragments I need. I had Elixir already. So I did that. I got Elixir, I got Wake Water, thawed out. I'm just like, all right, I could go check. Just like, I still need fragments though, so let me just run through Lava Dome anyways. I pulled life off of Hydra, got Phoebe up to 34, and just immediately like, all right, cool. Focus Tower if it's not in Focus Tower. Or, yeah, I checked Spencer, so I was like, if it's not in Focus Tower, I'm doing Pazuzu since I'm right here. And then if it's not here, I'll have to go back to like Medusa or Ghidra, because it's probably there then. And, yeah, so with Fallen Thunder Rock, I'm like, wow, I skipped like almost every mini-boss in the game. I skipped Key Tower entirely. I'm just like, and I was like looking at my time, like, if I didn't lose that 7 minutes, I'd be cruising. And I was just like, man, it's like, and that's when I started like, yeah, I'm like 7 minutes. I'm like, that's like, I'm looking how fast I got to go. I'm just like, yeah, it's like, I don't know how good I feel about this being a qualifier right now. And the fact that happened.
Yeah, no, sometimes you kind of feel cursed when you do well in qualifiers. It's like, man, if I'm doing well in qualifiers, how bad am I going to do in the tournament? But, it works out sometimes. I want to say, let me take a wild guess. You finished at about level 18 on Ben?
I want to say it was either 18 or 20. I forget which one it was. I'm pretty sure it was 18.
Yeah, given with how quickly you finished, I want to say that sounds like an 18 Ben finish. I know Hataks, having deviated a little bit and gotten a couple extra things out of the way, including some mini boss fights that you didn't do, probably bumped him up 2 levels, putting him at 20.
A lot of it
now.
I was gonna say a lot of it depends because I pay attention to my XP a little bit, and if I'm 18 and I'm relatively close to 19, and I see a battlefield that has like 1 or 2, I might take the battlefield and try to do the, I don't know if it's a glitch or whatever, but if you level up on the experience of a fight on the last fight of an EXP battlefield, it gives you 2 levels. It doesn't do a lot because you still need the same amount of experience to get to that level, so you'll need more experience to get to your next level. But if it's your last levels, you essentially get an extra level for free. In this case, going into Dark King with Randomizer, when you've got different, abilities, it's like sometimes Dark King is really, really nice, and other times Dark King is the complete opposite.
Yeah, but he is the boss for a big reason. Speaking of the boss, Possumonphe getting through phase 1 relatively unscathed, and Artea now making his way through the Dark King fight here as well. Be interested to see who finishes first here between the two of them. Possum obviously having a little bit of a lead going in, and 3 levels on Artea, having that extra wizard charge, and also having a full level 41 Phoebe. Probably is going to get the damage pumped out a little bit more, maintain that lead. We'll see how that goes. Ham now finally finding his Thunder Rock, making the same play I think we saw Possum make, which was Spencer first, then North Focus Tower. So making the right choices, not going into P Tower, and also getting an exit for his time. So a little bit of a speed up there in terms of getting out of ship in a couple other locations. Overall, though, this was a pretty jet seed, I would say, all things considered. Like, yes, there was a lot of running around at some points, but you finish with these settings at around the hour to potentially sub-hour time that you could have had. I consider that a jet seed, especially with the way that these settings have been for some of the flags.
Yeah, I wasn't really looking so much, especially after I did the reset. I wasn't even looking at my time at all anymore. I'm like, I don't want to look at it because I'm just going to be sitting there thinking about the time I lost. So it wasn't until I hit Dark King and I got him to phase 2. I'm just like, and I glanced at my time. I'm like, oh, wow. I'm like, this one was fast. I felt like I was going fast still, but I'm just like, I wasn't expecting to be going that fast.
Yeah, no, for sure. And especially with the running around, it makes you, it's like time dilates whenever you have to traverse the overworld for such a long amount of time. You're like, God, it's seconds, but it feels like minutes I'm losing doing this, the traversal. And that's time for Possumonphe clocking in a 1 hour, 11 minute and 4 seconds. Between Hataks and Possumonphe, we had F. Coughlin, or Freddy for those who know them by that name, finishing with a 109.35. So a respectable 1, 2, 3, 4 so far on the screen. And it looks like Ham is now on his way to max ship to make his way to Dark King. How do you feel about Dark King being just the final walk up for Doom Castle after going through all this stuff? Do you like that? Do you kind of miss the refights? How are you feeling about those settings?
I mean, it kind of depends on what the flags are. I know these ones are trying, meant to be going. We're trying to go a little bit faster, and it takes a little bit of the variance off, which I feel like when you have, when you do, especially like map shuffle, and you add in the decision making for routing logic, quick adaptation. If you find something like, do I want to go check that now? It's out of the way, but that might have what I need. It kind of adds to where it gets closer, because especially is kind of that great equalizer at times and can be harder than Dark King, especially if we have Randomizer shuffle. So yeah, in these flags I kind of like it. It's kind of one of those like, all right, we need to just go to Dark King and not worry about anything else. So you kind of know when you're going to Doom Castle. It's like you're just like, all right, I need to prepare for everything else. Like, no, I just need to prepare for Dark King, and usually you know that before you even go there.
Yeah, I think design-wise, looking behind the curtain when we were coming up with these flag strings, it's like, what do we want the big hurdle to be? And we wanted the big hurdle to be finding go mode and making sure you're prepped with your partners. So to add another layer of complexity of like, okay, find go mode, prep your partners accordingly, and be ready for the wild cards that are the refights. Felt like a bit much when we're trying to go fast in these settings and trying to clock in an average of an hour 20 to an hour for these seed completion times for the tournament. Turning on the refights probably would have added like another 10 to 15 minutes per seed, and it kind of pushed us over the edge when it came to designing these flag sets. So ultimately we said, nah, let's turn off the refights, straight to King. Artea finishing with that 113.13.
Yeah, there was no other finishers between Possum and Artea.
Yeah, 3 minutes separating, not even 3 minutes, like 2 minutes separating those two times. So very, very close. I think the thing that ultimately got Possum in the lead was going back to check for Tree Wither before Artea did. And that was the play to get T-Rock at the end of the day, was that quest chain.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably what saved me the most amount of time, was the fact that I rushed Libra Crest the way I did, and then immediately followed it to Tree Wither, because, hey, I mean, it's kind of that idea. It's like, how are you doing your routing? Because, like you said, part of it is like you need to have not just Ben, but you need to have your partner ready. It's not just, find Phoebe in Wintry Cave, do that, go pick Phoebe up or whoever you're bringing, go get him. It's just like, you've got these quests, and that's why I was just like, all right, well, the Tree Wither, like, immediately, like, that's Minotaur. That puts Phoebe in a better position to do anything else in the seed right now, because she'll have white. So it increased that to like, this is high priority. I do this right now.
Indeed. And yeah, and I think ultimately at the end of the day, that's one of those checks I was talking about earlier, where experience has burned us a few too many times to not make that play, especially for how easy it is. You literally just walk onto a tile, talk to an old man, you get an item for basically free. So it's just a matter of remembering that it was there. I was doubling back and look at the quests here, I believe. So I think Possumonphe was the only player on screen to finish with a fully leveled Phoebe. And looking at the quests here, he must have been the only one to do 17 battlefields. I think everybody else had 3 crystals, which they did. Everybody else visited Summit of Volcano. Everybody had to defeat Minotaur. So yeah, Possum was the only one who went full clear and decided to take a couple extra battlefields. And I don't think that ultimately cost them as much time as just not checking Tree Wither as soon as they could have.
No, I think it was, that idea of being, Phoebe at 34 is really nice. Like that's what you typically have in vanilla game is Phoebe.
Mm-hmm.
But, have her at 41 at, 1700 health. It's just like, unless Dark King rolled really bad, you're probably getting through that fight on turn one. You're looking at like status effects, really, are the only thing, status effects or like instant death, essentially, and getting bad turn order.
Yeah, Super Phoebe has been really fun to play with. Honestly, just having her juiced up to level 41 and just dealing like, it breaks her over that 2000 threshold, it feels like, on her white cast, and just like makes her like, it's only a couple extra 100 damage, but it just makes her feel so powerful, especially with the extra 300 and something HP she gets as well.
Yeah, I think that 300 HP is the big thing, because unless you're looking at like crits or something like that, there's not really much that's in the game, period, that's gonna like two-shot Phoebe. So you never have to worry about that. So if you go into Dark King with a Ben that has no life, that's just like, well, if something happens to Phoebe outside of insta death, should be fine.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, you could, with that much HP, she could even probably tank. No, it would still kill her. I was gonna say she could probably tank a crit Mega Flare, but no, that would do like 1800 damage. So the only person who lived through a crit Mega Flare would be Tristan, because he's got fire resist. And Wild Ham now making his way through phase 4. I don't think phase 4 was really bulky at all. This was like 3 or 4 turn phase 4.
I don't even think it was that. I'm like remembering, I think it was like 3 casts and I was done. Like phase 4 was nothing, if I remember right. Yeah.
And that's time for Wild Ham. A 6 minute, sorry, not a 6 minute, a 13 minute spread on screen. Really not bad for these tournament flag settings. Let's give it up for everybody who we showed recast. Again, for anybody joining late, this is a vodcast, so these asyncs were recorded a couple days ago and submitted to a spreadsheet for us to review and check before we go ahead and tally them against the other qualifiers. But yeah, GG's to all the runners we showcased here tonight. Very good showings from everybody. I really love the divergence and the variety we saw with the routing options. I think a lot of good decisions were made on screen, and ultimately kind of came down to who made the best decision first.
Yeah, definitely.
So I am excited. We have one more async coming up. So we will have another vodcast in the next couple days here, chat. We'll be tinkering with maybe getting the runners in the booth with us to talk about the decisions they're making in real time and really kind of having that banter back and forth. So if you like this, go ahead and let us know. Either join the community Discord, which you could find at ffmqrando.net, and let us know what you thought, or, just let us know in the comments if you're watching the VOD on FFR. I'd love to hear some feedback on how you think the commentary is going, especially with having one of our participants in here for the podcast. Thanks again, by the way, Link a lot, for being in the booth with me. Not only for being a very, very good runner of the randomizer, but bringing the knowledge of having run the seed firsthand in here to kind of share some of your insights with the chat as we go through these.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. I was glad to come in the booth and kind of see what everybody else was doing too, because it was interesting. Like I said, when we saw the times come on, I looked at my time and was like, oh, okay, I was really going that fast even with my silly mistake. And I was just like, kind of want to see what everybody else did. Where was the decision that gave me, in this case, if I wouldn't have made that mistake, potentially like 10-minute lead against somebody. I'm just like, and that's seeing it's like it was that decision for just focusing Libra Crest, and then just doing Libra Crest, getting the Tree Wither, getting the Venus Chems. Like, I can do white, I'm gonna go do Lava Dome instead of these other the Giant's Tree or Medusa, and just kind of everything just kind of fell into place, it seemed like.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, that's how rando's gonna rando sometimes. Sometimes you make the right plays, and sometimes you get burned on like 3 or 4 checks and it feels bad. I think every time I get slapped in the face with a steel sword after I have another one, I'm like, man, I just feel it's like the worst feeling, honestly, is getting a downgrade weapon. But that's just me personally. I don't know if anybody else feels that bad about it. But that's going to wrap it up for us tonight here, chat. Link, you got any other final thoughts for the chat, or anything you want to say before we wrap up tonight?
No, I think that's it. I'm just, looking forward to the last qualifier, seeing how everybody does, and then getting the tournament on the way and seeing what happens. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, for sure. And are you going to be taking part in the last qualifier? I know you've gotten 2 down already. Are you going to go for a third just in case?
I'm thinking so because I wasn't too happy with the live qualifier. I forget what happened. There was something I just did and I wasn't happy with it. So I think I'm going to see if I can get a little bit of a better position, but we'll see.
Well, good luck to you and all of our other runners participating in our tournament. But that is going to do it for us tonight, chat. Thanks so much for having us on FFR. Always a pleasure when they allow us to come onto their channel and showcase the Mystic Quest Randomizer. Again, if you want to check out the randomizer yourself, stop by ffmqrando.net and please, by all means, join the Discord. There's a link on the left-hand side of the menu when you go on ffmqrando.net. Tons of wonderful people, great community to be a part of, and I look forward to seeing you at our next vodcast. Take care, chat.